Spiritual values of life. Over the last few months, in a map of self care, we have looked at our emotional needs, our intellectual needs, and the needs of our energy body. With this video, we start the series on our spiritual needs. Self care in this context means understanding that we are spiritual beings, that we have spiritual needs, and then taking steps to fulfill those spiritual needs. Hi, this is Nirmala Shekhar, a coach and a body talk practitioner from Singapore, and we are currently beginning to explore our spiritual needs in a map of self care. Before we understand what our spiritual needs are, let's look at what exactly is spirituality. A dictionary definition of being spiritual: spiritual relates to the spirit. It is not material, non material. It is not physical, non physical or metaphysical. It is transcendental. It is all that is sacred, holy, and pure. To me personally, spirituality means connecting with what is sacred and pure within me, and then using this inner connection to see and acknowledge the sacred and the pure outside of me, whether that is in people, in places, in all of nature, or even in the events that are unfolding around me. There is spirituality in all the religions of this world, and this spirituality is available even to those who practice no particular religion. So, for this series, we are going to explore spirituality that is available to everybody, whether we practice a particular religion or we practice no particular religion. There is a spiritual self within all of us, and self care means understanding that spiritual self, understanding the needs of that spiritual self, and then taking action to fulfill those needs. Our primary spiritual need is the practice of values. Today, every business, every educational institution, every NGO, every organization takes time out to identify its core values. Knowing its core values allows an organization to chart its direction. And when an organization is faced with opposing choices, knowing its values allows it to take decisions that are in line with its vision. All of us are looking for meaning and direction in our life. We are eager to know what our life purpose is. We spend a lot of time trying to understand that. And once we know our life purpose, then we take steps to reach that life purpose, to achieve that life purpose. But in my opinion, we are going about it the wrong way. When we are looking for our life purpose, that life purpose is a destination somewhere far away, and we have to take steps to reach that destination. But what if there was a way in which I could figure out and live my life purpose right now, where I am currently? Values allows me to do that. When I spend time identifying, understanding, and practicing my core values, these values allow me to understand my life direction. These values give meaning and purpose to my life. And then practice of these values allows me to be in touch with my life purpose at every step of the way. In this case, my life purpose is not a destination, it's with me at every stage. So, which is better, a destination that will be achieved at some point in the future, or something that's available to me right now. That is the reason why I feel that values, the practice of values, is our primary spiritual need. Some of us are very clear as to what our core values are, but most of us are not sure what my values are going to be. So let's do this simple exercise to identify our core values. For the next 30 seconds, take a piece of paper and pen and write down the values that come to your mind. Don't filter it, don't censor it, just write down a list of values that comes to you. At the end of 30 seconds, look at your list and look for synonyms, words that mean the same. So, for example, if you have compassion, kindness, help, concern for all of these are similar words. So, from these synonyms, pick one value that feels closest to your heart. That is your first core value. And all the others in that list become the related values. Repeat this exercise a couple of more times until you have 2 to 3 core values. We start with 2, and if you're comfortable and you have done this exercise before, then identify 3 or 4 core values. And we will take these to help us decide our direction and the meaning of our lives. Most of us have a romantic idea of our values. We think values are perfect, ideal, and are to be practiced in all situations. But a value is just an idea, a concept, a theory. The real value of a value is in its practice, and the practice is always in given situations. Understanding our core values allows us to better practice these values and to also choose the situations when practice of these values is appropriate, and to ignore situations when practice of these values may not be advisable. So, how do we go about understanding our core values? We already did one step of this understanding process when we were identifying our core values. When we were identifying our list of values, we picked up all the synonyms of our core value. And knowing these synonyms, knowing these related values, is one way of understanding our core value. The next step is to know what our value is not, which means what is the opposite of the value that I have chosen. So, for example, if I have chosen helping others as my value, then the opposite of that value is hurting others. And our human brain sometimes grasps the negative aspect much faster than the positive one. So, for some situations, hurting others becomes an easier way to understand what I am not supposed to do. So, if I take helping, hurting, I could choose a scale. So, I can say if I do this action, it's going to hurt someone. If I do a second action, it's not going to help anyone, it's not going to hurt anyone. And if I choose a third action, that is the one that's going to help someone. So, depending on my circumstances, I can then choose to not hurt someone or to help someone actively. And knowing an opposite of my value allows me to make this decision in a much easier way. A third way in which I can understand my value is to know my blind spots. What do I mean by my blind spots? These are the limits on practice of this value. If I continue practicing this value in these situations, which are blind spots, then the practice of that value becomes negative, and I may need to choose a different value to practice in these situations. So let's take the example of helping others. In this case, what are the blind spots? So if I am choosing to help someone in a way that is hurting myself, or I am putting myself at great harm by helping someone, then that is a blind spot. Another blind spot, if I'm helping someone in such a way that they are not learning to do this for themselves, then that is a blind spot. And the third one is if I'm helping someone and they are using my help to hurt a third person or a fourth person, then that again becomes a limit on the practice of that value. So identifying these possible situations beforehand when we are studying or understanding our values helps us to better choose the situations where we should be practicing this value and to avoid situations where we should not be practicing these values. Taking time to understand my core values in this way helps me gain clarity. And the first thing that I gain clarity is, what are the directions in life that are not meant for me? What are those directions that are not in alignment with my core values? That is the first thing that I become clear on. And when I continue practicing my core values, then over time, I begin to understand the meaning of my life, the purpose of my life, and the direction of my life. And when I start linking these with my core values, then I realize that my purpose in life, my direction in life is not some distant destination that is available to me in the future. It is available to me right now, right at this moment. That is all I have for you. This is Nirmala Shekhar signing off. Bye bye. Namaste. Do subscribe and hit the bell button for more weekly content on self-care. And if you want even more actionable content on self-care, do join me in the Facebook group for weekly lives, discussions, and more tips.